Welcome back to the channel, and today we are diving deep into one of the most beloved and iconic entries in the Barbie animated film franchise. We are talking about Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar. This is a movie that captured the hearts of millions of children and families around the world, and today we are going to break down absolutely everything about it, from its overview, to its detailed plot, to its cast, its release date, and everything in between. So sit back, get comfortable, and let us get into it. Overview. Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar is a computer-animated musical fantasy film produced by Rainmaker Entertainment and released under the Universal Pictures Home Entertainment label. The film was produced in collaboration with Mattel, the company behind the iconic Barbie brand. This movie is the 19th entry in the long-running Barbie direct-to-video film series, which has been entertaining young audiences since the early 2000s. The film is a loose adaptation of the classic story, The Prince and the Pauper, a concept originally written by American author Mark Twain. However, instead of following that story in a historically grounded setting, Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar takes that core idea of two completely different people swapping lives and reimagines it in a vibrant, colorful, modern musical fantasy world. The result is a story that feels both timeless and fresh, carrying themes of identity, dreams, friendship, duty, and the courage to follow your heart even when the world expects something else from you entirely. This film stands out within the Barbie movie franchise not only because of its musical focus but also because of the strength of its central message. The movie tells young viewers that who you are on the inside matters far more than the role or the title that the world assigns to you. It encourages children to pursue their passions, to be brave enough to ask for help, and to recognize that the grass is not always greener on the other side, something both lead characters have to genuinely learn and understand through their shared adventure. The film runs at approximately 83 minutes in length, making it a comfortable watch for children and families alike. It is a bright, energetic, and emotionally resonant film with catchy musical numbers, beautiful animation, and characters that feel genuinely warm and relatable. Plot details. The story begins by introducing us to two young women who seem to live in completely opposite worlds, yet are connected by a remarkable and almost magical physical resemblance to each other. The first character is Princess Tori, a royal princess who lives in the Grand Kingdom of Mirabella. On the surface, Tori has everything: a beautiful palace, loyal subjects, devoted pets, and a life of luxury. However, beneath all of that elegance and grandeur, Tori feels deeply constrained. She is expected to act with perfect poise at all times, to follow the rigid rules of royal conduct, and to give up any personal desire in service of her duty as a princess. What Tori truly wants, more than anything in the world, is to perform music. She loves to sing and dance, but the expectations of royalty make that nearly impossible for her. She is surrounded by advisors and royal obligations that leave no room for her personal dreams. The second character is Kira, a world-famous pop star who is adored by millions of fans everywhere she goes. From the outside, Kira's life seems like a dream. She performs on massive stages, wears spectacular outfits, and is celebrated wherever she travels. But Kira, too, is deeply unhappy in her own way. She is exhausted from the constant pressure of fame, the grueling schedule her manager enforces, and the lack of genuine personal freedom. Kira longs for a quiet, simple, beautiful life. She dreams of the kind of elegant, peaceful existence that she imagines a princess must have. When Kira arrives in the kingdom of Mirabella for a concert, the two young women meet and are instantly shocked by how similar they look. Their resemblance to each other is truly striking, almost as if they were mirror images. What begins as a moment of disbelief quickly turns into an opportunity when the two of them come up with a plan. They will swap lives, even if only temporarily. Tori will get to experience life as a pop star, performing on stage and living freely without royal restrictions. Kira, meanwhile, will get to experience the grace, beauty, and elegance of being a princess. It seems like a perfect arrangement for both of them. However, as is always the case with plans that seem perfect on paper, things quickly begin to go wrong. The swap brings with it a series of challenges that neither of them anticipated. Tori, trying to impersonate Kira, must learn the ins and outs of performing as a pop star, not just the singing and dancing, but the public persona, the interviews, the expectations. Kira, pretending to be Princess Tori, must navigate royal customs, formal etiquette, diplomatic situations, and the demands of palace life, all without revealing that she is not actually who everyone thinks she is. Adding further tension to the story is the presence of a villain, a greedy and scheming character who has her own plans for the kingdom of Mirabella. The antagonist in the film is Serafina, and her plot involves getting hold of a magical and powerful flower that grows in the kingdom. This flower is connected to the prosperity and well-being of Mirabella itself, and Serafina is determined to steal it for her own gain. Her plans threaten not just the kingdom but also the people that both Tori and Kira have come to care about deeply during the course of the swap. As the story progresses, both Tori and Kira begin to realize something very important. The lives they envy from a distance are far more complicated and difficult than they appeared. Tori discovers that being a pop star is not just about freedom and fun. It comes with enormous pressure, harsh criticism, and a loss of privacy that is genuinely overwhelming. Kira, on the other hand, begins to understand that royal life is not simply about elegance and beautiful dresses. It comes with weight, with responsibility, and with the genuine burden of caring for an entire kingdom and its people. This is where the emotional core of the film really shines through. Instead of simply having fun with the swap, both characters grow. They begin to appreciate their own lives more deeply. They also develop a genuine friendship, one built not on their shared appearance, but on mutual understanding, empathy, and the recognition that each of them has strengths the other lacks. The climax of the film brings Tori and Kira together again, this time not to maintain the swap but to face the threat that Serafina poses to Mirabella. United as friends, they use their combined abilities, Tori's royal knowledge and Kira's performance confidence, to outsmart the villain, protect the magical flower, and save the kingdom. The resolution is satisfying and emotionally warm, with both characters returning to their own lives but taking with them a renewed sense of purpose, gratitude, and self-understanding. The film ends on a joyful and celebratory note, with music, friendship, and the message that the best version of your life is the one where you embrace who you truly are rather than wishing you were someone else entirely. Cast and voice performances. The voice cast for Barbie, the princess and the pop star is led by Kelly Sheridan, who is one of the most well-known and celebrated voices associated with the Barbie franchise. Kelly Sheridan provides the voice of Princess Tori in this film. She has voiced the Barbie character across a large number of films in the franchise and brings a sense of warmth, sincerity, and charm to the role that fans have come to deeply appreciate over the years. The role of Kira, the pop star, is voiced by Diana Karina. Diana's performance brings an energetic, vibrant, and genuinely fun quality to Kira that makes her immediately likable. The contrast between the more refined Princess Tori and the lively, free-spirited Kira is something that both voice actresses manage to capture beautifully, and their chemistry throughout the film gives the friendship between the two characters a sense of authenticity and heart. Supporting voice performances in the film include a cast of talented voice actors who bring the secondary characters to life, including the various royal advisors, palace staff, and of course the pets that accompany both Tori and Kira throughout the story. The animal companions in Barbie films have always been a beloved element for young viewers, and this film continues that tradition with charming and expressive animal characters who add both humor and warmth to the narrative. The musical numbers in the film also feature original songs, and the vocal performances tied to those songs are a significant part of what makes this movie memorable. The music is lively, catchy, and emotionally fitting, with songs that reflect the dreams, frustrations, and eventual growth of the main characters. Production and direction. The film was directed by Ezekiel Norton and Lloyd Goldfine, both of whom worked within the established production framework of the Barbie direct-to-video film series. The movie was produced by Rainmaker Entertainment, which is a Canadian visual effects and animation studio. Rainmaker has been responsible for the production of a significant number of Barbie films and has developed a recognizable visual style for the franchise over the years, one defined by bright, colorful environments, expressive character designs, and detailed, stylized worlds. The screenplay was written by Elise Allen, who crafted a story that balances humor, adventure, musical moments, and genuine emotional depth in a way that works well for its target audience. The writing keeps the pacing tight while still giving the characters enough room to breathe and develop meaningfully over the course of the film's runtime. Release date and distribution. Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar was released on August 14, 2012. It was released as a direct-to-video film, meaning it was not given a theatrical release in cinemas but was instead made available for home viewing through DVD and Blu-ray. This was consistent with the release strategy used for the majority of the Barbie film franchise, which has always been primarily aimed at the home entertainment market. The film was distributed by Universal Pictures Home Entertainment in the United States and in several international markets. It was accompanied by a doll line and other merchandise from Mattel, which helped bring the characters and the world of the film to life beyond the screen. The release was timed to coincide with the back-to-school season in the United States, giving it a strong window for sales and viewership among its target demographic. Themes and legacy. What makes Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar genuinely stand out, even years after its release, is the sincerity with which it handles its central themes. The message that you should appreciate what you have, that the life you envy from a distance is never as simple as it looks, and that your dreams are worth pursuing even within the life you already have. These are ideas that resonate not just with children but with anyone who has ever felt trapped by expectations or envious of someone else's circumstances. The film has maintained a loyal fanbase within the broader Barbie movie community. Many viewers who grew up watching it in 2012 continue to look back on it with genuine fondness. The music, the friendship between Tori and Kira, the colorful world of Mirabella, and the story's warm resolution have all contributed to making this one of the more beloved entries in the entire Barbie film catalog. It is also worth noting that the film represents the franchise's ability to take familiar storytelling frameworks, in this case, the classic body swap or identity swap concept, and adapt them in a way that feels fresh and meaningful within the context of the Barbie world. By centering the story on two strong female protagonists who both have real dreams, real frustrations, and real growth, the film avoids feeling like a simple or superficial exercise in wish fulfillment. Trailer information. The official trailer for Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar was released ahead of the film's August 2012 launch and showcased the vibrant animation style, the central premise of the identity swap, and several of the film's musical moments. The trailer was designed to appeal directly to its core audience of young children and fans of the Barbie franchise, highlighting the fun and excitement of the swap while also teasing the conflict and adventure that drives the story forward. It was made available across Mattel's official digital channels and was accompanied by promotional clips and behind-the-scenes materials that gave audiences a closer look at the film's characters and world. Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar, the complete story. The world of Mirabella. Our story begins in the breathtakingly beautiful kingdom of Mirabella, a land of rolling green hills, sparkling rivers, colorful flowers, and grand architecture that feels like something pulled directly from a dream. Mirabella is a prosperous and peaceful kingdom, and at its very heart stands a magnificent royal palace, tall, golden, and gleaming in the sunlight, surrounded by immaculate gardens and filled with the kind of grandeur that most people could only ever imagine. It is inside this palace that we meet our first main character, Princess Tori. From the outside, Tori has a life that anyone would envy. She is royalty. She lives in a palace. She is dressed in the finest clothes, surrounded by the most loyal servants, and treated with the highest respect by everyone around her. Her room alone is more beautiful than most people's entire homes, and her daily schedule is filled with royal duties, royal lessons, and royal engagements. She is, in every visible sense of the word, living a perfect life. But Princess Tori is not happy, at least not in the way that her title and her surroundings might suggest she should be. Tori is a young woman with a deeply passionate soul, and that passion belongs entirely to music. She loves to sing. She loves to perform. There is something alive in her when music is playing, something free and uninhibited and joyful that simply does not exist anywhere else in her very structured royal existence. When Tori sings, she is not a princess burdened by expectations, she is simply herself, fully and completely. The problem, of course, is that no one around her seems to understand that. The palace advisors, the royal staff, and the traditions of the kingdom all send the same message, over and over again. A princess does not perform publicly like an entertainer. A princess must conduct herself with dignity and restraint. A princess has duties to her people, to her kingdom, and to the legacy of the royal family. There is no room in that list of responsibilities for Tori to chase the dream of performing music for an audience. So Tori lives in a kind of quiet frustration, going through the motions of her royal duties while secretly longing for something more, for the freedom to be on a stage, to feel the energy of a crowd, and to share her love of music with the world. Her closest companions during this time are her beloved pets, who add warmth and humor to her daily life, and they are witnesses to the real Tori, the one who sings and dances when no one of importance is watching. Kira, the girl on the other side of the dream. Meanwhile, in a completely different part of the world, we are introduced to Kira, and what an introduction it is. Kira is a massively famous, globally celebrated pop star. She performs to sold-out arenas. Her music is known and loved by millions, and wherever she goes she is met with screaming fans, flashing cameras, and an almost overwhelming level of public adoration. On stage, Kira is electric. She commands every inch of the performance space with confidence and charisma, and her energy is absolutely contagious. She is the kind of performer that audiences cannot take their eyes off, and her talent is genuinely remarkable. But just as Princess Tori's perfect life has a hidden crack running through it, so does Kira's. Behind the glittering stage costumes and the roaring crowds and the worldwide fame, Kira is exhausted. She is deeply, genuinely, bone-tired in a way that no amount of applause seems to cure. Kira's life is not her own. Every single aspect of her existence, where she goes, what she wears, what she says publicly, what her schedule looks like, what image she projects, is managed and controlled by her manager. She has almost no personal freedom. She cannot simply go for a walk. She cannot simply sit quietly in a garden without it being turned into a photo opportunity or a public relations moment. She cannot have a meal without it fitting into some larger plan. What Kira dreams of, with all her heart, is a quiet and beautiful life. She longs for simplicity. She imagines what it must be like to live in a grand palace, surrounded by elegance and peace, with no screaming fans outside the window, and no manager dictating her every move. In her mind, the life of a princess sounds like paradise, graceful, calm, dignified, and free from the relentless pressure of public performance. Of course, the irony is breathtaking. The princess wishes she were a pop star, and the pop star wishes she were a princess. Each of them is standing in exactly the place the other one desperately wants to be, and neither of them can see clearly enough through their own frustration to recognize how fortunate they actually are. The arrival in Marabella. The story truly begins to set itself in motion when Kira and her management team arrive in the kingdom of Marabella. Kira is scheduled to perform a major concert there, and her arrival is treated as a significant and exciting event for the entire kingdom. Banners are hung, preparations are made, and there is a genuine buzz of excitement among the people of Marabella at the prospect of having such a globally famous artist in their midst. Princess Tori, for her part, is thrilled for a completely personal reason. She is a fan of Kira's music. Kira's songs represent everything that Tori wishes she could do herself, and the idea of having this pop star actually come to Marabella feels almost too good to be true. When the two of them finally come face to face for the first time, something extraordinary happens. They look at each other, and they stop. They stare. Because what they are seeing is almost impossible. The two of them look remarkably, almost identically alike. The resemblance between Princess Tori and Kira the pop star is so striking that it takes both of them a moment to fully process what they are looking at. It is as though they are staring into a mirror, except that the reflection is wearing different clothes and carrying a completely different life. This moment of shock quickly gives way to fascination, and fascination gives way to conversation. Tori and Kira begin to talk, and almost immediately there is a warmth and an ease between them that neither of them had expected. Despite coming from such different worlds, they understand each other in a way that few people in either of their lives truly do. Tori talks about what it feels like to be trapped inside royal expectations. Kira talks about what it feels like to be controlled by the machinery of fame. And they listen to each other, really listen, with empathy and genuine recognition. As they talk more, the idea begins to form. It starts almost as a joke, a playful suggestion born out of their mutual admiration for each other's lives. But it quickly becomes something more serious. What if they switched? What if, just for a little while, Tori lived as Kira and Kira lived as Tori? Tori could perform on stage, feel the energy of a crowd, and experience the musical freedom she had always craved. Kira could walk through the palace gardens, attend graceful royal events, and enjoy the elegance and peace she had always dreamed about. It would be temporary. It would be their secret. And surely, if they were careful, no one would ever know. It is the kind of plan that sounds brilliant when you are caught up in the excitement of it. And so, with a shared sense of adventure and a mutual trust that has formed with surprising speed, Tori and Kira agree to swap their lives. The swap begins. The switch is set in motion, and at first, it feels like everything both of them had imagined it would be. For Tori, stepping into Kira's world is an immediate rush of excitement. She gets to dress like a pop star, speak to fans, and most importantly, prepare to perform on stage. There is an electricity to it that she cannot quite contain, and for the first time in what feels like forever, she feels genuinely alive in her everyday life rather than only in the moments when she is secretly singing in her room. But performing as a famous pop star is not just about getting on stage and singing. There are interviews to give, and Tori has to maintain Kira's public persona without revealing that she is not actually Kira. There are rehearsals with the professional performance team who expect her to already know the choreography and the set lists. There are stylists and photographers and endless logistical demands that she had not anticipated. And above all, there is Kira's manager, a pushy, controlling, and demanding presence who views every moment of Kira's time as a commercial and professional asset. Tori has to deal with this person while pretending to be someone she is not, navigating a world she does not fully understand, under the constant pressure of exposure. Meanwhile, Kira steps into the palace and initially finds it just as beautiful and peaceful as she had imagined. The rooms are grand, the gardens are lush and lovely, and for a brief moment she breathes in the calm of it, and thinks that perhaps this really is the paradise she had always dreamed of. But then the royal duties begin. Kira quickly discovers that being a princess is not a life of leisure. It is a life of responsibility and structure that is every bit as demanding as her life as a pop star, just in completely different ways. She must meet with royal advisors, attend formal diplomatic events, make public appearances in the capacity of Princess Tori, and conduct herself according to a set of rules and expectations that she has absolutely no training in. She does not know the proper protocols. She does not know the history or the customs. She is essentially walking into a role that requires years of preparation, and she has to perform it flawlessly while an entire palace full of people watches her every move. The animals that belong to Princess Tori, her loyal pet companions, are particularly alert to the fact that something is different. They know their owner, and they know that the person now claiming to be her is not behaving quite like Princess Tori normally would. This creates a layer of tension and humor throughout the early stages of the swap, as Kira tries to win the trust and cooperation of creatures who are not entirely convinced by her performance. The cracks begin to show. As the days of the swap continue, the challenges multiply for both Tori and Kira. Tori finds that the world of pop stardom, for all its excitement, is far more isolating than it appears. The fans adore the image of Kira, but they do not know the real person beneath it, and Tori, in pretending to be that image, feels a strange and unexpected loneliness. She is surrounded by people at all times, and yet she has never felt quite so unseen. The manager's constant pressure is wearing on her, and she begins to understand, from the inside, why Kira had felt so suffocated by this life. There is also the ever-present fear of being found out. Every interview, every interaction with the performance team, every moment in public carries the risk that someone will notice something is not quite right. Tori has to be constantly vigilant, constantly performing not just on stage but in every single room she walks into, and that vigilance is exhausting. Kira, in the palace, faces her own mounting difficulties. The royal advisors are growing increasingly concerned about Princess Tori's behavior, which has been noticeably different since Kira took over the role. Kira does not carry herself with the particular poise and precision that the real Tori would, and despite her best efforts, there are moments where the performance slips and questions begin to form in the minds of those around her. More importantly, Kira begins to feel the genuine weight of what it means to be responsible for a kingdom. The decisions that Princess Tori has to make are not just about etiquette and formal dinners. They involve real people, real concerns, and a real community that depends on the stability and wisdom of its royal family. This is something that Kira had never fully considered when she imagined the life of a princess, and confronting it directly changes her perspective in a meaningful way. The villain emerges. While Tori and Kira are each struggling to maintain their respective performances, a far more serious threat is quietly developing in the background. The villain of the story is a scheming, self-serving woman whose eye has been fixed on a very specific and very precious asset belonging to the kingdom of Mirabella, a magical flower. This flower is not merely decorative. It is connected to the very prosperity and well-being of Mirabella itself, a source of the kingdom's vitality and good fortune. It has been protected and treasured by the royal family for generations, and its significance to the kingdom cannot be overstated. The villain has devised a plan to steal this flower for her own purposes, intending to take its power and use it for personal gain. She has been watching the palace carefully, looking for the right moment to move, and the disruption caused by the swap, the slightly off-balance behavior of the person claiming to be Princess Tori, the general atmosphere of something being not quite right, gives her the opening she has been waiting for. As her plans begin to unfold and the threat to the magical flower becomes real and immediate, the stakes of the story are suddenly elevated far beyond a fun and light-hearted adventure. Now the well-being of an entire kingdom is on the line. Discovery and confrontation. It is at this point in the story that the swap can no longer be maintained. The truth begins to surface, through a combination of the villain's scheming, the growing suspicion of people around them, and the sheer impossibility of keeping such an enormous secret going indefinitely. When Tori and Kira are reunited, there is a moment of reckoning. They have both experienced each other's lives. They have both been challenged, stretched, frustrated, and enlightened by those experiences. And they have both come to realizations about themselves and their own lives that they could not have reached any other way. Tori now understands, fully and clearly, that being a pop star is not the uncomplicated dream she had imagined. The freedom to perform comes attached to an enormous machine of management, public expectation, and constant pressure that strips away a different kind of freedom, the freedom to simply be a private person, to have a life that is not constantly on display. Kira now understands, equally clearly, that being a princess is not the graceful, peaceful escape she had longed for. The elegance of royal life comes attached to the weight of genuine responsibility, responsibility to real people, to a real kingdom, and to a legacy that matters deeply. But here is what is also true: both of them have grown. Tori has discovered a confidence in herself as a performer that she had never been able to fully access before, because she had never had the opportunity to test it in a real setting. Kira has discovered a depth of care for others and a sense of meaningful purpose that the pressure of fame had never quite given her. And most importantly, they have found in each other a genuine, deep, and true friendship, the kind that is built not on convenience or shared circumstances but on real understanding and mutual respect. The final battle, protecting Mirabella. With the villain's plan now fully in motion and the magical flower in genuine danger, Tori and Kira make a decision together. They are not going to run from this. They are not going to pass the responsibility to someone else. They are going to face this threat head-on, together, using everything they have, and what they have, between the two of them, is actually quite a remarkable combination. Tori has the knowledge of the palace, the understanding of royal customs and the layout of Mirabella, and the deep love for her kingdom that comes from having been raised as its princess. Kira has the boldness, the performance confidence, the ability to think on her feet under pressure, and a kind of fearless energy that comes from years of managing the unpredictable chaos of live performance. Together, they are not just two young women who look alike, they are a genuinely formidable team. Each one brings something essential to the confrontation, and each one compensates for what the other might lack on her own. The climax of the film sees them working in concert to outmaneuver the villain, protect the magical flower, and secure the safety of Mirabella. It is exciting and emotionally satisfying in equal measure, because by this point in the story the audience genuinely cares about both characters and deeply wants them to succeed. The threat is real enough to create genuine tension, and the resolution is earned because it comes from the characters using their own specific strengths rather than simply being rescued by outside forces. When the villain is ultimately defeated and the magical flower is safe, there is a wave of relief and joy that flows through the story. Mirabella is protected. The kingdom is safe. And two young women who started the story wishing they were someone else have discovered something far more valuable than the lives they envied. They have discovered themselves. The resolution and farewell. With the crisis resolved, Tori and Kira return to their own lives. Tori resumes her role as Princess of Mirabella, but she carries herself differently now. The experience has not extinguished her love of music or her dream of performing. If anything, it has made those things feel more alive and more real in her. But she also carries a new appreciation for what her life as a princess actually means. The responsibility, the connection to her people, the significance of her role, these things feel more meaningful to her now than they ever did before. She no longer sees her royal duties purely as constraints. She sees them as something real and important, and she finds a way to hold both truths at once, the truth of her duty and the truth of her dream. Kira returns to her life as a pop star, but she too is changed. The exhaustion and the sense of suffocation that she carried with her into Mirabella have been replaced by something more grounded and more purposeful. She still has her manager. She still has her schedule. She still has all the complexity that comes with fame. But she also has a renewed sense of what her music means, not just as a product to be managed and marketed, but as something that genuinely connects her to the people who love it. She carries with her the memory of Mirabella, of the palace gardens, of the friendship she found there, and that memory gives her a kind of inner peace that she had been missing. The parting between Tori and Kira is warm and genuine, carrying the bittersweet quality of a farewell between two people who have gone through something significant together, and know that their friendship, though tested by distance, is real and lasting. They do not say goodbye as strangers who had an interesting adventure. They say goodbye as true friends who changed each other's lives. The heart of the story. What the story of Barbie, the princess, and the pop star ultimately leaves the audience with is something quietly profound for an animated film aimed at children. It is not just a story about a funny mix-up or a fun adventure, though it is certainly both of those things. It is a story about the deep human tendency to believe that someone else's life is better than your own, and the equally deep and important discovery that every life, no matter how glamorous or enviable it appears from the outside, has its own weight, its own challenges, and its own quiet costs. It is a story about friendship forming across difference, not just difference in appearance or circumstance, but difference in experience, in upbringing, in the specific pressures that each person carries. Torai and Kira become friends not because they are alike, but because they choose to truly see each other, and that choice of genuine seeing is what makes their friendship feel real and worth caring about. It is also a story about courage, the courage to pursue what you love, the courage to accept responsibility, and the courage to return to your own life with fresh eyes and a grateful heart rather than always looking over the fence at someone else's garden. And finally, it is a story that tells every young viewer watching it that who you are, the specific, particular, real version of who you are, with your specific dreams and your specific duties and your specific place in the world, is worth embracing fully, because there is no one else in the world who can be that person the way that only you can. Barbie, the Princess and the Pop Star, Cultural and Historical Details. Historical Roots, the Prince and the Pauper. To truly understand the cultural and historical depth behind Barbie, the Princess and the Pop Star, you have to go back much further than 2012. You have to go all the way back to the 19th century, because the foundation of this film's entire story is built upon one of the most enduring and celebrated works of classic American literature. The film is a loose but unmistakable adaptation of The Prince and the Pauper, a novel written by the legendary American author Samuel Langhorne Clemens, known to the world by his pen name, Mark Twain. The novel was published in 1881, which means that the core story that powers this Barbie film is well over 140 years old. That is a remarkable historical lineage for what appears on the surface to be a brightly colored children's animated movie. Mark Twain set his original story in 16th century England, during the reign of King Henry VIII. The two central characters in Twain's novel are Edward Tudor, the young Prince of Wales who will one day become King Edward VI of England, and Tom Canty, a desperately poor boy from the slums of London who happens to bear an uncanny physical resemblance to the prince. When the two boys meet by chance and notice how similar they look, they decide, partly out of curiosity, and partly out of a shared longing to understand each other's worlds, to switch places. Edward goes out into the streets of London to experience the life of a pauper, while Tom Canty is suddenly thrust into the bewildering and dangerous world of royal court politics. What made Twain's novel so powerful and so historically significant was not the humor or the adventure of the swap, though both were present. What made it enduring was the social commentary embedded within the premise. Twain used the device of the identity swap to expose the enormous and unjust gap between the privileged lives of the aristocracy and the brutal, grinding poverty experienced by ordinary people in Tudor England. Edward, as he navigates life on the streets without his royal identity, begins to see the cruelty of laws and systems that he had previously been entirely shielded from. He grows as a human being not through formal education or royal tutoring, but through direct and painful exposure to reality. This was deeply intentional on Twain's part. He was not simply writing a fun adventure story. He was writing a critique of inherited privilege, of social class, of the arbitrary nature of birth determining the entire course of a human life. The novel reflected many of the progressive social concerns that Twain carried throughout his entire literary career, and it used the innocence and accessibility of a story about two boys to deliver that critique in a way that could reach even young readers. Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar takes this historical framework and modernizes it entirely, stripping away the class commentary and the Tudor court setting and replacing them with the contemporary contrast between royal life and pop stardom. The core mechanism remains identical: two people who look alike, who occupy opposite ends of a social spectrum, who decide to swap their identities and discover in doing so that neither life is as simple or as desirable as it appeared from the outside. But the context, the setting, the characters, and the cultural references are all entirely of the modern era. The cultural history of the Barbie franchise. To understand this film in its proper cultural context, you also need to understand the world it came from, the Barbie franchise itself, which is one of the most culturally significant and historically layered commercial properties in the entire history of modern entertainment. Barbie as a character was created by Ruth Handler, co-founder of Mattel, and was introduced to the world on March 9, 1959, at the American International Toy Fair in New York City. The date of that introduction is considered Barbie's official birthday. Ruth Handler was inspired to create Barbie by watching her daughter Barbara play with paper dolls and imagining fictional adult lives for them. Handler recognized something important: that children, and especially young girls, had a genuine desire to imagine future versions of themselves, adult versions with careers and independence and adventures. The paper dolls that existed at the time were mostly baby dolls, and they reflected a limited vision of what a young girl might aspire to become. Barbie was different from the very beginning. She was an adult woman, or at least an adolescent young woman, with a figure, with fashion, and crucially, with a career. From her earliest days, Barbie was not defined only by domesticity or by her relationship to male characters. She was a model, then an astronaut, then a doctor, then a presidential candidate, then a computer engineer. The list of careers that Barbie has officially held over the decades is extraordinarily long and reflects, with varying degrees of accuracy and success, the evolving conversation around women's roles in society. This cultural dimension of Barbie, the ongoing dialogue between the doll and the world's changing understanding of gender, aspiration, and identity, is the deep water beneath everything the franchise produces, including its animated films. The Barbie direct-to-video film series began in 2001 with Barbie and the Nutcracker, and from that point onward it became a significant cultural presence in the lives of millions of children worldwide. The films were not merely commercial products designed to sell dolls, though they certainly served that purpose. They were also, repeatedly and consistently, vehicles for storytelling that centered female protagonists, celebrated female friendship, and encouraged young girls to see themselves as the heroes of their own stories at a time when that kind of representation in animated entertainment was not nearly as common or as visible as it has since become. Each film in the series adapted a classic story, a fairy tale, a piece of literature, a historical narrative, and reframed it through the lens of a confident, capable, musically talented young woman who drives the story forward through her own agency rather than waiting to be rescued. This was a deliberate and culturally meaningful choice that set the Barbie film series apart from much of the mainstream animated content available at the time. The cultural phenomenon of the identity swap narrative. The identity swap or body swap narrative that sits at the heart of this film is not just a literary device with roots in Mark Twain. It is a narrative form with an extraordinarily long and rich history across many different cultures and storytelling traditions. In European fairy tale traditions, the idea of a person of high birth being forced to live among common people, or a common person suddenly elevated to a position of power, appears in countless stories across centuries. These stories almost always carry a moral lesson about humility, about the hidden value of ordinary life, and about the limitations of privilege when stripped of its comforts and protections. In East Asian literary and theatrical traditions, similar concepts appear in stories about disguise, mistaken identity, and the blurring of social boundaries. Japanese kabuki theater, for instance, has a long tradition of stories involving characters who disguise themselves as members of a different social class, with the disguise ultimately revealing deeper truths about identity and human nature that transcend social category. In Shakespeare's works, which themselves draw from even older European storytelling traditions, the device of characters assuming false identities, often crossing boundaries of class and sometimes of gender, is extraordinarily common. Plays like Twelfth Night, As You Like It, and The Merry Wives of Windsor all depend on variations of this concept, and they use it to explore questions about authenticity, desire, social expectation, and the difference between performed identity and true self. What the Barbie film does with this ancient and cross-cultural narrative device is transpose it into the specific cultural landscape of the early 21st century, replacing the traditional markers of class difference with the contemporary markers of fame and royalty. In doing so, it speaks to something that is deeply relevant to children growing up in a media-saturated world: the gap between the glamorous, curated, public image of a celebrity and the actual reality of that person's life, versus the equally curated and formal public image of royalty and the equally complex reality beneath it. Popstardom as a cultural institution. The character of Kira and the world she inhabits in this film reflects something genuinely important about the cultural moment in which the film was made. The early 2010s were a period of enormous transformation in popular music and in the culture of celebrity more broadly. The rise of social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube among them, was fundamentally changing what it meant to be a famous musician. For the first time, fans had access to celebrities in ways that felt immediate and personal. Pop stars were not just voices on albums or performers on television anymore. They were social media presences, they were personal brands, they were content creators, and they were subject to a level of public scrutiny and constant visibility that had no real precedent in the history of entertainment. At the same time, the music industry itself was in a period of significant disruption, with digital downloads and streaming beginning to displace traditional album sales. The pressure on pop stars to constantly produce, constantly perform, constantly remain visible and relevant was enormous, and the human cost of that pressure was becoming increasingly visible in public narratives about celebrity mental health and the darker side of fame. Kira, as a character, reflects a culturally aware and surprisingly sophisticated understanding of these pressures. Her exhaustion, her lack of personal freedom, her sense of being a product as much as a person, these are not arbitrary character details. They reflect a genuine cultural conversation that was happening in the early 2010s about what fame actually costs, and what the entertainment industry actually demands of the people at its center. For young viewers in 2012, many of whom were growing up with an idealized and heavily media-constructed image of what it meant to be a pop star, Kira's experience offered something genuinely valuable: a humanizing and honest look at the gap between the dream and the reality of that particular kind of life. Royalty as a cultural concept in the modern world. The figure of Princess Tori, and the broader concept of royalty that she represents, also carries significant cultural weight that goes beyond mere fairy tale convention. The early 2010s were a period of renewed global fascination with real-world royalty, particularly following the marriage of Prince William and Catherine Middleton in April 2011, an event that was watched by an estimated 2 billion people around the world and that reignited a widespread popular interest in monarchy as a cultural institution. The wedding was covered with an intensity and an emotional investment that revealed how deeply the idea of royalty, even in a modern, democratized world, continues to captivate popular imagination. Into that cultural context, a Barbie film featuring a princess character carried a particular resonance. But what is interesting and culturally significant about the way this film handles the concept of royalty is that it does not simply romanticize it. Princess Tori is not presented as purely lucky or purely privileged. She is presented as someone burdened by expectation, constrained by duty, and denied the opportunity to pursue her personal passions by the weight of her royal identity. This is a more nuanced and more honest portrait of royalty than the pure fantasy version that dominates most children's entertainment, and it reflects a cultural awareness of the human cost of that institution that was very much alive in public discourse during that era. The cultural significance of female friendship, Indiana the film. One of the most culturally meaningful aspects of Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar, is the way it handles the relationship between its two central female characters. Tori and Kira do not compete with each other. They do not see each other as rivals, despite the fact that a more conventional story structure might have encouraged exactly that dynamic. They do not fight over a male character or define themselves in relation to male attention in any significant way. Instead, they become genuine friends, and the friendship between them is the emotional engine of the entire story. It is their connection, their mutual understanding, and their willingness to work together that ultimately allows them to defeat the villain and protect Mirabella. Their friendship is presented as a source of strength and as the moral heart of the film. This was culturally significant in 2012 and remains culturally significant today. The concept that has since been formally articulated as the Bechdel test, which simply asks whether a film features two named female characters who talk to each other about something other than a man, is thoroughly met and exceeded by this film. Tori and Kira talk to each other about their dreams, their frustrations, their fears, their responsibilities, and their friendship. They support each other, challenge each other, and grow because of each other. Their relationship is the center of the story, not a supporting element to a romance or a male-led adventure. In the broader cultural context of children's animated entertainment, this was a meaningful and progressive choice that reflected the Barbie franchise's long-standing commitment to centering female relationships and female agency in its storytelling. Music as cultural identity. The musical dimension of the film also carries cultural significance worth examining. Music in this film is not merely entertainment or background decoration. It is the primary vehicle through which the characters express their most authentic selves, and it functions as a symbol of personal identity and freedom that transcends social role. The idea that music represents the truest version of a person, the version that exists beneath all the performance and pretense of social identity, has deep roots in cultural thinking about art and selfhood. The Romantic tradition in Western culture, which emerged in the late 18th and early 19th centuries, placed enormous emphasis on art as the most direct expression of an individual's inner life and emotional truth. Music, in particular, was elevated by Romantic thinkers as the art form most capable of reaching the deepest and most authentic parts of human experience. Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar operates, perhaps unconsciously, within this tradition. When Tori sings, she is most fully herself, not Princess Tori the royal figurehead, but simply Tori the person with dreams and passions. When Kira performs her music, there is a distinction drawn in the film between the manufactured pop persona she presents to the world and the genuine musical feeling that she experiences when she truly connects with what she is doing. Music is the place where both characters are most real, and the film treats that truth with genuine respect. Legacy in the context of children's media history. Looking at this film within the broader history of children's animated media, it occupies an interesting and important position. The early 2010s were a period of significant transition in how children's entertainment handled questions of female identity, aspiration, and representation. Disney was in the process of evolving its princess formula, moving away from the passive, romantically defined princesses of the classic era toward more active and self-determined protagonists. Tangled had been released in 2010, and Brave would follow in 2012, the same year as this Barbie film. The conversation about what kinds of stories children's media should be telling young girls was very much alive and active in the cultural sphere. The Barbie film franchise was, in many ways, ahead of that broader curve. Its commitment to female-centered stories with active, capable, musically gifted heroines who drive their own narratives had been consistent since the series began in 2001. Barbie, The Princess and the Popstar arrived at a moment when the rest of the children's entertainment landscape was beginning to catch up to values that the Barbie films had been embodying for over a decade. Conclusion: more than a movie. What emerges from a careful examination of the cultural and historical layers of Barbie, The Princess and the Popstar is a picture of a film that is genuinely richer and more complex than its surface suggests. It carries within it a 19th-century literary classic, a centuries-old cross-cultural storytelling tradition, a sharp and culturally aware portrait of early 21st-century pop stardom, a nuanced examination of royalty as both symbol and burden, a committed and progressive vision of female friendship and agency, and a deep philosophical idea about the relationship between music, selfhood, and authentic identity. For a film aimed primarily at young children, that is an extraordinarily rich set of cultural and historical roots, and it goes a long way toward explaining why the film has remained in the affections of so many people long after the moment of its initial release. Barbie, The Princess and the Popstar, Actor's Life History. Kelly Sheridan, the voice of Princess Tori. Kelly Sheridan is a Canadian actress whose voice has become one of the most recognizable and beloved in the world of animated entertainment, particularly within the Barbie film franchise. Her journey to becoming the defining voice of one of the most iconic doll characters in history is a story of talent, dedication, and a career built quietly but powerfully over decades of consistent and passionate work in the entertainment industry. Kelly Sheridan was born on March 19, 1977, in Fort St. John, British Columbia, Canada. Fort St. John is a relatively small city situated in the northeastern corner of British Columbia, a region defined by vast open landscapes, natural beauty, and a close-knit community culture that is far removed from the glittering world of Hollywood entertainment. Growing up in that environment, Sheridan developed a love of performance from a very young age. There was something in her from the beginning that was drawn to storytelling, to the act of inhabiting characters and bringing them to life, and that early passion became the guiding force of her entire professional life. As she grew older and her interest in acting deepened and became more focused, Sheridan made the decision to pursue her craft seriously and professionally. She moved toward the larger entertainment markets of Canada, where the film and television industry, particularly in British Columbia, has long been one of the most active and productive in North America. Vancouver, in particular, has served as a major production hub for decades, attracting American productions and maintaining a thriving local industry of its own, and it was within this environment that Kelly Sheridan began to build her career. Her early career involved the kind of varied and wide-ranging work that most young actors experience in the beginning stages of their professional lives: appearances in television series, work in animation, supporting roles that allowed her to develop her craft and establish her presence in the industry. Voice acting, in particular, became an area where her talents were quickly recognized. There is a very specific skill set required for voice acting that goes beyond simply having a pleasant voice. It requires the ability to convey emotion, personality, humor, warmth, fear, joy, and sorrow entirely through vocal performance, without the support of facial expressions or physical movement. Not every talented actor possesses that particular skill in abundance, but Kelly Sheridan proved from an early stage that she had it in extraordinary measure. The turning point in her career, the moment that would define her professional legacy and connect her name permanently to one of the most beloved characters in popular culture, came in 2001 when she was cast as the voice of Barbie in Barbie in the Nutcracker. This was the very first entry in the Barbie direct-to-video animated film series, a project that was in many ways a significant gamble. Animated films based on toy brands had been produced before, but the Barbie franchise was attempting something more ambitious: a series of feature-length animated films, each adapting a classic story, each centered on a musically talented and emotionally compelling female protagonist. The quality and the heart that Sheridan brought to the role of Barbie in that first film was instrumental in establishing the tone and the emotional standard that the entire series would carry forward. From that point onward, Kelly Sheridan became the defining voice of Barbie across an enormous number of films in the franchise. She voiced the character through some of the most celebrated entries in the series, including Barbie as Rapunzel, Barbie of Swan Lake, Barbie as the Princess and the Pauper, Barbie, Fairytopia, Barbie and the Magic of Pegasus, Barbie and the 12 Dancing Princesses, Barbie as the Island Princess, Barbie and the Diamond Castle, Barbie and the Three Musketeers, and of course Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar, among many others. Each of these films presented her with different characters and different emotional landscapes to navigate, and her ability to bring genuine warmth, intelligence, and emotional depth to each performance made her irreplaceable within the franchise. What is particularly remarkable about Kelly Sheridan's contribution to the Barbie film series is the consistency and the care with which she approached every single role. Voice acting for animated films is often underestimated as a craft, dismissed by those unfamiliar with it as a lesser form of performance. But the reality is that the voice actor carries the entire emotional weight of an animated character on their shoulders, and the quality of a children's animated film is deeply dependent on the quality of the vocal performances at its center. Sheridan understood this, and she brought the same level of commitment and emotional investment to each recording session that a live-action actor would bring to a film set. Beyond her work with the Barbie franchise, Kelly Sheridan has had a career in live-action television and film as well, with appearances in various Canadian and American productions throughout her working life. She has worked in drama, in comedy, and in genre productions, demonstrating a range that extends well beyond the warm, heroic characters she is most famous for voicing. Her live-action work, while perhaps less globally visible than her voice work, speaks to a versatility and a commitment to the craft of acting in all its forms that has defined her throughout her career. Kelly Sheridan has also been deeply connected to her fanbase in a way that speaks well of her character as a person. The generation of children who grew up watching the Barbie films in the early 2000s and into the 2010s have carried a deep and genuine affection for those films into their adulthood, and Sheridan has consistently acknowledged and appreciated the significance of that connection. She has spoken in interviews about what it means to her to have been part of stories that touched so many young people so deeply, and the sincerity of that appreciation is evident in every conversation she has had about her work with the franchise. Her voice, warm, expressive, capable of conveying both strength and vulnerability with equal ease, became the sound of Barbie for an entire generation, and that is a legacy that extends far beyond any individual film in the series. When people who grew up with those films think of Barbie as a character, they think of Kelly Sheridan's voice, and that level of identification between an actor and a character is something that very few performers in any medium ever achieve. In the specific context of Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar, Sheridan's performance as Princess Tori is one of the warmest and most emotionally rich of her work in the franchise. She captures Tori's longing and her frustration with a subtlety that could easily have been missed in a less skilled performance, and she brings genuine joy to the moments when Tori is finally able to express herself musically. The chemistry between her vocal performance and Diana Karina's portrayal of Kira gives the friendship at the center of the film its authenticity and its heart. Diana Karina, the voice of Kira. Diana Karina is a Canadian actress and singer whose work on Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar represents one of the most significant and memorable performances in the Barbie film franchise's history. She is a performer of genuine talent and considerable range, and her portrayal of Kira gave the film one of its most vibrant and beloved characters. Diana Karina was born and raised in Canada, and from early in her life she demonstrated a strong and natural inclination toward performance. Unlike many performers who discover their passion for acting or singing gradually over the course of childhood and adolescence, Karina showed signs of genuine talent at a young age that those around her recognized and encouraged. She pursued her interest in music and performance with seriousness and dedication, developing both her singing voice and her acting abilities as complementary and interconnected skills rather than separate disciplines. Her background in music is a significant and defining aspect of who Diana Karina is as a performer. She is not simply an actress who can carry a tune. She is a genuinely accomplished musician whose vocal ability is a central part of her artistic identity. This made her an ideal choice for the role of Kira in Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar, a character who is defined first and foremost by her identity as a musical performer. For Kira to be convincing and compelling, the actress voicing her needed to be able to bring not just acting ability but genuine musical credibility to the role, and Diana Karina brought exactly that. The world of Canadian entertainment, particularly in the realm of voice acting and animation, is a closely connected and highly professional community, and Karina established herself within it as a performer of real ability. Her work spans both voice acting and live-action performance, and she has demonstrated throughout her career the kind of versatility that speaks to a genuine commitment to the full range of what acting requires. What Diana Karina brought to the role of Kira was something quite specific and quite special, an energy that was immediately infectious, a sense of humor that felt natural rather than performed, and a genuine emotional depth that allowed Kira to be more than just the fun, carefree pop star character she initially appears to be. As the film progresses and Kira begins to grapple with the realities of royal life and the growing friendship between herself and Tori, Karina's performance deepens and expands in ways that give the character real emotional weight. The musical performances in the film required Karina to deliver songs that were not just technically competent, but emotionally compelling, songs that told the story of who Kira was and what she was feeling at each stage of the narrative. She rose to that challenge with a skill and a commitment that made those musical moments some of the most memorable in the entire film. The songs attributed to Kira feel genuinely inhabited rather than simply performed, and that quality of inhabitation is what separates a truly excellent musical performance from a merely adequate one. Diana Karina's work on this film has earned her a lasting place in the memories of the generation that grew up watching Barbie movies. Kira is, for many fans of the franchise, one of the most beloved characters in the entire series, and that status is inseparable from the performance that Karina gave her. The character's combination of humor, warmth, vulnerability, and genuine musical passion made her immediately lovable, and all of those qualities flowed directly from the choices that Karina made in her vocal performance. Beyond her work on this specific film, Diana Karina has continued to build her career in the Canadian entertainment industry, working across different mediums and genres and consistently demonstrating the kind of professional dedication that sustains a long and meaningful career in a highly competitive field. Her connection to the Barbie franchise and to the character of Kira in particular remains one of the most celebrated aspects of her professional history, and it is a connection that she shares with the millions of fans who fell in love with that character through her performance. What is particularly moving about the legacy of Diana Karina's work on this film is the way it connects to the film's central theme about the relationship between music and authentic identity. Kira, as a character, is most fully and most honestly herself when she is truly connected to her music, when the performance is not about the fame or the image, but about the genuine feeling behind the song. And Diana Karina, as a musician and an actress who clearly brings genuine feeling to everything she does, embodied that truth in every moment of her performance. The character and the performer share a quality of authentic musical passion that gives the film a resonance it might not otherwise have had. The shared legacy of both performers. What Kelly Sheridan and Diana Karina share, beyond their individual talents and their individual histories, is a place in the cultural memory of an entire generation of young people who grew up with these films. The Barbie animated film series was, for millions of children in the early 2000s and 2010s, a formative part of their relationship with storytelling, with music, and with the kinds of female characters they were allowed to imagine themselves becoming. Both women brought to their respective roles a level of sincerity and professional commitment that elevated the material far beyond what it might have been in lesser hands. They understood, whether consciously or instinctively, that the audience for these films, young children, many of them girls at the very beginning of forming their understanding of the world and their place in it, deserved performances that were real, that were warm, and that carried genuine emotional truth. The friendship between Princess Tori and Kira that forms the heart of Barbie, the Princess, and the Popstar works as beautifully as it does in large part because of the chemistry between the two actresses voicing them. That chemistry was not accidental. It was the product of two skilled and dedicated performers each doing their very best work and finding, in the process, a shared frequency that brought the relationship between the characters to life in a way that feels genuine and deeply felt. The history of voice acting in animation is full of performances that are technically proficient but emotionally distant, voices that fill the space required of them without truly inhabiting the characters they are meant to bring to life. Kelly Sheridan and Diana Karina represent the opposite of that. They are performers who understood that the characters they were voicing deserved to be fully inhabited, fully human, and fully real, regardless of the animated medium in which those characters existed. And the lasting love that audiences have for Princess Tori and Kira is the most honest and most meaningful measure of how completely they succeeded in that task. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the lives and careers of these incredible performers, please give this video a thumbs up. It genuinely helps this channel grow and reach more people who love this kind of detailed content. If you have not subscribed yet, please do so right now and turn on the notification bell so you are always the first to know when we upload something new. Share this video with anyone who loves the Barbie films or who appreciates learning about the real people behind the voices of the characters they grew up with. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you in the next one. Performing Arts Life Histories of the Main Voice Actors. Glowing star Kelly Sheridan, the voice behind Barbie. Kelly Sheridan is one of the most iconic voices associated with Barbie, and her journey in the entertainment industry is both inspiring and impressive. Born on May 19, 1977, in Ottawa, Canada, she developed an interest in acting at a very young age. Her passion led her to pursue formal training at the National Theatre School of Canada, where she honed her skills in performance and voice acting performing arts. Sheridan's big breakthrough came when she was selected as the official voice of Barbie in the early 2000s. She became widely recognized for her role in numerous Barbie films, including Barbie, The Princess and the Pauper and Barbie Fairytopia. Her ability to bring warmth, charm, and emotional depth to animated characters made her a fan favorite worldwide, globe showing Europe, Africa, sparkling heart. In Barbie, The Princess and the Popstar, Kelly voices Princess Tori, a character who dreams of living a more exciting life. Sheridan's vocal performance perfectly captures the innocence, curiosity, and emotional transformation of the character crowned Sparkles. Beyond Barbie, Kelly Sheridan has lent her voice to many popular animated series such as My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, where she voiced Starlight Glimmer, and Inuyasha, where she played Sango. Her versatility allows her to switch between different tones, emotions, and character types effortlessly. Microphone. Despite her success, Sheridan has remained grounded and deeply connected to her fans. She often attends conventions and interacts with audiences, sharing insights about her career and experiences. Her dedication to voice acting and her long-standing association with Barbie have made her a legendary figure in the animation industry. Microphone. Jennifer Warries, the voice of Kira the Popstar. Jennifer Warries is a talented Canadian singer and voice actress who brought life to the character of Kira, the glamorous pop star in Barbie, The Princess and the Popstar. While not as widely known as some mainstream celebrities, Warries has made a significant impact through her musical and vocal contributions. Musical notes. Sparkles. Her background in music gave her a strong foundation for voice acting, especially in roles that require singing. In this film, her performance as Kira stands out because of her ability to combine vocal acting with powerful musical delivery. The songs in the movie became one of its most memorable aspects, and Warries played a crucial role in that success. Musical note. Jennifer Warries trained extensively in music and performance arts, which helped her develop a unique style that blends emotional expression with technical skill. Her portrayal of Kira reflects a character who struggles with the pressures of fame, offering a deeper and more relatable perspective on celebrity life. Glowing star. Although she has maintained a relatively low public profile compared to Hollywood stars, her work continues to resonate with audiences, especially among fans of Barbie musicals. Her contribution to this film proves that strong voice acting and singing can elevate an animated story to another level. Musical notes. Ollie Liebert, supporting talent and industry journey. Ollie Liebert, born on August 20, 1981, in Surrey, British Columbia, Canada, is another talented actress associated with voice and on-screen performances. While her role in this particular Barbie film is not as prominent as Sheridan's, her overall career in acting is noteworthy. Clapperboard. Liebert began her acting journey in television and independent films, gradually building a reputation for her strong performances. She gained recognition for roles in various TV series and movies, showcasing her range as an actress. Her dedication to her craft has earned her critical acclaim, including awards for her performances in Independent Cinema Trophy. Apart from acting, Ollie Liebert is also a producer and has worked behind the scenes in film production. Her career reflects a deep commitment to storytelling, both in front of and behind the camera. Clapperboard. Final thoughts. The success of Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar is not just due to its colorful animation and catchy songs, but also because of the talented voice actors who brought the characters to life. Artist palette. Musical note. From Kelly Sheridan's iconic portrayal of Barbie to Jennifer Warres's musical brilliance, each performer contributed something unique to the film. Their dedication, training, and passion for storytelling helped create a movie that continues to entertain audiences around the world. Globe showing Europe, Africa. Sparkling Heart. More than just a Barbie movie. At first glance, Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar looks like a simple animated musical made for kids. Girl. Musical notes. But when you look deeper, it becomes clear that this movie is actually a carefully designed mix of storytelling, psychology, music theory, and brand evolution. This film is not just about a princess and a pop star switching lives, it is about identity, pressure, dreams, and self-acceptance. The balloon. And behind its colorful animation lies a surprisingly smart structure that keeps audiences emotionally connected from beginning to end. Open Book 1. The story is based on a 100-plus-year-old idea. The central plot of Switching Lives comes from The Prince and the Pauper books. But here's the twist. Backhand index pointing down. Instead of focusing on rich versus poor, this movie modernizes the concept. Princess equals trapped by responsibility. Crown. Popstar equals trapped by fame. Microphone. Both characters are privileged, in different ways, but unhappy. This creates a modern emotional conflict that today's audience can relate to. Backhand index pointing right. This is why the story feels fresh even though the idea is old. Performing Arts 2. The psychology of wanting another life. One of the deepest facts about this movie is its psychological realism. Almost everyone at some point thinks, backhand index pointing right, I wish I had someone else's life. This film explores that exact feeling. The princess wants freedom. The pop star wants peace. But when they switch, reality hits hard collision. This is based on a real psychological concept called backhand index pointing right. Grass is greener syndrome. The movie cleverly shows that. Heavy check mark. Every life has hidden struggles. Heavy check mark. Happiness comes from within. Heavy check mark. Escaping your role doesn't solve problems. Microphone 3. Music is not decoration, it's storytelling. Unlike many animated films, the songs here are not just for fun musical notes. They actually reveal emotions, move the story forward, show character development, This style is similar to Broadway musicals, where songs replace dialogue in emotional moments. That's why kids remember the songs even years later. They are tied to feelings, not just melodies sparkling heart. Studio microphone 4. Voice acting required emotional precision. The performance by Kelly Sheridan is a major reason the movie works so well. Voice acting in musical films is extremely challenging because dialogue must match singing tone microphone. Emotions must feel real without visuals. Timing must sync perfectly with animation. Even a small mismatch can break immersion, but this film maintains consistency throughout clapping hands. Artist Palette 5. Animation reflects character psychology. The animation style is not random, it is designed to reflect inner emotions. Princess World Crown. Soft colors. Calm environments. Controlled movements. Backhand index pointing right represents structure and responsibility. Popstar World Microphone. Bright neon colors. Fast transitions. Energetic scenes. Backhand index pointing right represents chaos and pressure. This contrast visually tells the story without needing extra dialogue clapperboard. Light bulb 6. Hidden message about fame. The movie subtly critiques celebrity culture. Glowing star. It shows that being a pop star means no privacy, constant performance, high expectations. This is a rare theme for a kids' movie, and it adds depth. Crown 7. Royal life is also not perfect. Similarly, the film breaks the fantasy of being a princess. Instead of luxury, it shows rules, duties, lack of freedom. Backhand index pointing right. This balance makes both lives equally challenging. Musical notes 8. Songs were engineered for catchiness. The music follows a specific formula. Simple lyrics, repetitive hooks, emotional words. This is intentional. It makes songs heavy checkmark easy to remember. Heavy checkmark easy to sing along. Heavy checkmark highly replayable. Clapperboard 9. Directed for emotional simplicity. Director Zeke Norton focused on clarity over complexity. This means easy to follow story, strong emotional beats, clear character arcs. Backhand index pointing right perfect for younger audiences while still engaging adults. Office Building 10. Part of Mattel's bigger strategy. This movie wasn't just entertainment, it was part of a larger plan. Mattel was transforming Barbie into a media brand, a storytelling universe, a global franchise. Movies like this helped Barbie stay relevant in the digital era. Globe showing Europe, Africa. Brain 11. The film teaches emotional intelligence. Without being obvious, the movie teaches empathy, responsibility, self-awareness. These are advanced emotional concepts, especially for kids. Light bulb. Performing Arts 12. Identity crisis is the core theme. Both main characters struggle with identity. They ask, backhand index pointing right, who am I really? This makes the story deeper than it appears. It's about self-discovery, not just adventure. Artist Palette 13. Color psychology drives emotion. Every scene uses color intentionally. Pink warmth and fantasy. Purple creativity. Gold responsibility. Neon excitement. These choices influence how viewers feel subconsciously. Artist palette. Counterclockwise arrows. Button 14. The switch is symbolic. The life switching element represents backhand index pointing right, escaping reality. But the lesson is backhand index pointing right, you can't escape yourself. This is a powerful philosophical idea hidden in a simple story. Sparkling Heart 15. Friendship over fantasy. In the end, the movie emphasizes heavy checkmark understanding others. Heavy checkmark supporting each other. Heavy checkmark being true to yourself. Instead of focusing only on dreams, it focuses on relationships. Television 16. Direct-to-video model success. This film was not released in cinemas but still became popular. Why? Because Barbie movies follow a strong home viewing model. Family-friendly content. Repeat watching. Strong brand loyalty. Microphone 17. Dual lifestyle contrast keeps viewers engaged. Switching between two worlds creates variety. Royal scenes calm. Concert scenes energetic. This prevents boredom and keeps attention high fire. Puzzle piece 18. Simple story, complex structure. While the story looks simple, it follows a classic structure. Desire for change. Magical switch. Conflict. Realization. Resolution. Backhand index pointing right. This is a proven storytelling formula used in many successful films. Glowing star 19. Strong nostalgia factor. For many viewers, this movie is part of childhood memories. Thought balloon. That emotional connection increases. Rewatch value. Fan attachment. Long-term popularity. Clapperboard 20. Legacy in Barbie musical films. Among Barbie movies, this one stands out for heavy checkmark strong music. Heavy checkmark balanced storytelling. Heavy checkmark emotional depth. It's often remembered as one of the best musical Barbie films. Musical notes. Barbie, the Princess and the Popstar is more than just a colorful animated movie. It's a story about dreams, identity, and reality. Microphone crown. It teaches us that sparkling heart, the life you want may not be the life you need. Sparkling heart, every dream comes with responsibility. Sparkling heart, true happiness comes from being yourself.